Hello everyone, welcome to 3ddesignacademy.com and the second part of the 12th Q&A session. So in the previous lesson, I was working on this surface over here, but as you can see, the intersection looks a little bit weird, so I'm going to make some adjustments there. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to untrim the surface over here like this, and I'm just going to extend it back. And let's just go ahead and delete the construction history here as well. Just going to extend this one back like this. Right now, do notice that this one is also extended back as well. So you just want to make sure that the symmetry is on. Now, one of the the main reason why this one has a little weird shape is because due to the crown difference between this surface and this surface. So what I'm going to do is make some adjustments there. Now I do have a surface that I used to build this with, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pull it up like that, just a little bit. It doesn't have to be too much, but you just want to pull it up, and I'm going to take a look at how this intersection behaves. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to align this one over here to the curve that I had before. And let's just go ahead and turn blending on, XR0 of 2, blend vector of 0. Or you can always reuse this curve over here. Now, this COS is over here, but now with the crown difference, you'll see that the COS is a lot more natural shape. I think that's a little bit better, but I think I'm going to make a little bit more adjustments there. Okay, I'm just going to pull it up like that. I think that looks good. Okay, so that looks much better. Now, if you want to, you can always just duplicate this curve on the bottom and just put it over here, and that's just going to keep the shape as is. But if you think that might be a little bit too much crown, of course you can do what I did and just adjust the COS there. Okay, so now that's done. Let's go ahead and delete the original COS over here and delete this one. And I'm just going to intersect between the two. So let's go ahead and untrim this one. Now, actually, before I do that, let's just go ahead and make sure that this one doesn't have a lot of spans. So right now it's got 2 degrees, it's 2 spans. So actually, let's take a look. So it's just a freeform blend. So you can just keep a freeform blend, or you can also do a bi-rail. It doesn't really matter as long as you have a nice surface. So I'm just going to hit this one, and I'm going to hit this one over here. And that automatically takes care of it, and you got a single span surface there. Okay, so now let's go ahead and just extend this one over here like this, and I'm just going to intersect this one with this one like that, and let's go ahead and trim. So looks like the COS is a little bit short, so I'm just going to say extend, select it. I'm just going to trim there, and of course I do need intersection over here like this. And now I do need to extend this back, so let's go ahead and I'm going to turn symmetric modeling on like this, and let's go and extend this one like this. Okay, so that looks pretty close, which isn't too bad. And from the top view, now it might have moved this I guess the intersection or the projection point for the top of the grill a little bit, but I think I'm going to, well, because this is going to I still have a lot of things to do. I don't think I'm going to spend quite a lot of time adjusting these. The idea here is to show you guys how to patch this out. All right, so now that's done. Let's just go ahead and project this curve. Basically, we have to get back to this point. So I'm just going to use the stretch tool, and I'm just going to intersect to the original point. And I'm going to go ahead and just delete this one like this. And let's go ahead and build a square again. So it's just going to, why is there 2? Okay, well, let's delete one of them. I'm going to say square over here, 2, 3, and 4 on the surface. And I think that looks pretty good. All right, so let's go ahead and trim this one. Make sure I'm just going to extend that one like this, and I'm just going to trim it here, and that looks good. Looks like there's a COS over here, so let me just do a rebuild. Yep, the rebuild takes care of it, although I can probably just reduce it a little bit more. Looks like 3 degrees. That takes care of it and makes it a single span. And I think the primary surfaces look pretty good. Well, except for this. So let's go ahead and fix this one too. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to, well, actually, query the history. I'm going to say explicit control on. 5 degrees should take care of it. Let's see if I can reduce it. 4 does it, 3 does it. Looks like even, no, looks like 3 does. So that's good over here. So now I'm going to go ahead and put some fillets on the surfaces. So first of all, I'm just going to delete the construction history like this. And I'm going to go ahead and take a look at which one needs to go first. Actually, before I do that, let me just make sure that this one is good because it's also has a couple of spans. So I'm just going to delete the surface over here like this. And let's take a look at the image. Now, when you're doing this, probably, well, okay. So it looks like this fillet is actually pretty small. So I think putting this one in first is a good idea. So let's go ahead and do that. However, I'm just going to make sure that it actually lines up nicely. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab these curves over here like this. I'm just going to grab this one as well, like that. And let's go ahead and put a curve over here. So I'm just going to snap a curve here and here. I'm just going to align over here. Blending will be turned off. G2. I'm just going to put this on symmetry layer like this. And let's go ahead and use a square. So it's going to be 1, 2, 3, and 4. Like that. And I'm just going to make it at least a 3 degrees over here. It is going to be curvature. And I am going to turn rebuild off like this. And we got curvature there. And that looks good. Now this is a 3 degree. And that's a 3 degree surface. So that looks pretty good. All right. Highlight looks good. Nice transition over here. It looks, it becomes a little bit flatter as it goes towards center, which is what we have over here. So I think that's pretty good. All right. Maybe I can reduce the amount of crown just a little bit. I think it might be a little bit too puffy. So maybe I'll just bring it down just a little bit. I think just a subtle hint, maybe a little bit more. Okay, so I'm just going to bring these down. Oops, don't want that. Yeah, that's good. I think just a subtle amount should be good. Now, the only problem is, of course, it's going to cause this surface to be, well, I do have to adjust this one as well. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm just going to delete the construction history over here. And I'm actually going to untrim this one because this one does need to go over here. Let's just take a look at the image. I think I have one. Yeah, you'll see that the highlight is falling over here. So let's go ahead and go back to Alias. And I'm just going to say hide and select it. And what I'm going to do is just align this one over here like that. Blending will be turned on. Extra 0 is a 1. Blend vector 1. Because if you don't align this one, you'll see that there's actually a little bit of gap. So you just want to make sure that that's adjusted and aligned nicely like that. Okay, so that looks good. And I'm just going to delete the construction history over here, make everything visible. And now it's time for fillets. So I'm just going to, well, actually, you can trim it. However, the only problem is that that is going to make the fillet, well, you know what? Here's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to make it a little simpler. And I'm just going to grab all of these surfaces and just trim them through the middle. So I'm just going to grab a curve, snap it to the grid like this. And I'm just going to project. I'm going to trim like that. I'm going to make them visible. And let's go ahead and put a fillet over here. Now, since I'm trimming at the center, I really don't need the pitch precisions anymore. And I'm going to actually go ahead and hide the curves as well. So I'm just going to hide all the curves like this. And it does have a very generous fillet over here. So I'm going to start with that. So let's go ahead and grab a surface fillet over here. It's going to be chord. It's going to be G2. And let's make it something big. So I'm going to start with 200. For the form factor, you probably, for these ones, you probably want it to be a little bit, you probably want to add a little bit of, reduce it so that the CV structure is a little bit more centered, and that's going to create a little bit more lead in. But for convenience sake, I'm just going to leave it at 1 for this demo. Okay, so I'm just going to say edge align on both sides, and I'm just going to see how big it needs to be. I would say 300 probably is better. Let's take a look. Okay, so I do think the symmetry should be on. 300 looks pretty good. I actually don't mind going a little bit bigger, so I think I'm going to say 400. Now, when you're doing this, you just have to be a little bit aware of the fillet outside over here as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put one here, and I'm going to compare the two. So 400 over here might be a little bit too big, so maybe 300. Looks like that doesn't work either. So what I'm going to do is, first of all, I'm going to set up a curve over here. So let's do a curve fillet. It's going to be chord, it's going to be G2, and I would say maybe start with 300 and see how the size looks over here. Now it does look like it's a little bit off, but overall not too bad. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make this a little bit more progressive. So I think it's, well, it's not perfect. So if I were to make it simple, all I have to do is just snap a curve from here to here. Now do note that it's skewed over here, so you probably want to separate it. But well, yeah, let's make this properly. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to, let's see. Actually, you know what? For this one, I think I'm just going to use insert. So I'm going to say curve and surface over here. Oops. I think it was this surface. Oh, actually, you know what? Let's redo that. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to duplicate this edge over here. I'm going to copy and paste over here like that. I'll probably just move it in for just a little bit. And now this one looks pretty straight, so I'm just going to make it straight as well. And I'll just snap a curve over here. Why is that snapping? That's weird. Projected intersection is on, so there's no reason why it shouldn't snap, but looks like it's not. So let's go ahead and just project a curve over there. And I'm going to snap a curve over here like that and do that. Okay. And now let's go ahead and project. We'll project here, project here. Oh, that one I think is already done. So I would say those curves are good. And now I'm going to just put a fillet between all of those. So trim here, trim these two, trim here. And let's go ahead and put some fillets. So I'm going to say bi-rail over here, 1 and 2. I'm just going to align because otherwise this edge is not going to be lined up. So I'm going to do that, but blending will be turned off. Edge over here, do the same thing over here. Okay. Actually for this one, let's just reduce the spans by rebuild. Edge, edge, and now let's do a square. So it's going to be 1, 2, oh, let's go the other way. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, 5 and 5. 3 is going to be curvature, and that looks good. All right, so I can delete the curve. That's, although it seems a little bit big, but whatever. Okay, and now let's go ahead and put a fillet over here too. So I think I'm probably going to maximize it. So let's go ahead and just duplicate this edge over here with a curve. I'm just going to turn merge off and extend this curve over here. And now what I'm going to do is just snap a curve here like this. And I'm also going to snap a curve somewhat equidistant from here, and that should be good. Now let's go and project like this, delete the curves, trim here, and now I'm just going to put a blend between the two, like this. That looks good, and finish it off with a square, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and that's good over there. Okay, so that looks pretty good, and let's go ahead and put some more fillets over here. I have to put one over here. I have to put one over here as well. So let's go ahead and do that too. So for this one, I think it actually should probably be a little bit bigger. So I'm going to make this a little bit generous. So I'm just going to go ahead and untrim this one first. And let's just turn the symmetry off like this. I'm going to delete these ones. Just going to extend it over here, trim. I'm going to just split this into two. So for this one, what you can do is you can just grab a curve like this, just project it, or you can of course follow this shape too. So maybe I'll do that. Okay, so in order to do so, let's go ahead and duplicate this again. I'm just going to extend, project, and let's go ahead and trim. I'm going to say divide, and let's go ahead and put a fillet over here. Oh, it won't. This one will be a little bit smaller, so maybe I'll do 150. Now you probably want this to be, well, you want it to be a decent size, so I think this should be good. Although, yeah, I think that should be good. Now I'm going to put a fillet over here. Now there's a good chance that I might have to adjust this. Actually, let's take a look at from the side view. Actually, that looks like it's quite on the right on the spot. So, well, let's give that a go. Okay, so I'm just going to delete the construction history over here, and I do need to put a fillet over here. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm just going to snap a curve over here like this, and over here, just going to extend. Okay, let's go ahead and project over here like this. Just going to say keep. And let's just go ahead and put a blend curve between here and here, and let's do a square. So it's going to be 1, 2, 3, and 4 like this, and that looks good. All right. So now I guess the more critical area over here is how do I blend these two? So let's go ahead and do that. So if you have a surface or surface intersection like this, what are you supposed to do? Because right now, if you look at this, these are supposed to blend together. But right now, this surface is floating over here. However, if you look at the patch over here, I think, well, there has to be a fillet between the two. But if you actually extend this, oops, let me just turn merge on. You'll still get a pretty decent intersection like this. So what I can do is I can just put actually let's do this. I'm just going to intersect this one with this one like this, and what I can do is I can just put a fillet over here. So I think this is going to actually work out not too bad. Now that's it. However, well, this fillet size is pretty generous, so I should probably take that into account. Well, let's give it a go. So first of all, I'm just going to extend this one, and I'm going to trim it like this. I'm going to trim this one, trim this one. I think that looks pretty good. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a generous fillet over here. There is a chance that I might have to adjust these, but let's give this build a go. So first of all, let me just put a surface fillet between these two. Well, that's a little bit too big, so let's try 50. Okay, so right now it's set to edge align, but well, let's take a look at the image first. I think it looks pretty smooth over here. So what I'm going to do, let's get back to Alias over here. Let's just make it a default, and I'm just going to patch this in. Well, let's make it a little bit bigger. So maybe I'll make it 70. I think I'm just going to go until at this point. So what I'm going to do, oh, actually, that should be determined by this fillet. So I think I might have to do that one first. So let's, if that's the case, I'm just going to delete the construction history over here. Actually, I do need a curve. I think this one over here, like that. Okay. That looks good. Now it is going to rise, but I probably want to adjust the height on this one as well. So I'll have to take a look, but let's determine the size of this one first. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put the same size fillet. I'm just going to run it like this, and I'm just going to say extend. And I'm just going to take a look at the size. Actually, that looks pretty good. Maybe it needs to be a little bit tighter. Let's turn symmetry on. Well, I think that's pretty good actually. Although if that's the case, I think this actually needs to be a little bit bigger too, because I would prefer, now this surface looks pretty good, so I don't think it has to be a perfect match, but I definitely don't think it's going to hurt. So, well, let's take a look. Yeah, I think that I would say that's a pretty good size. So let's go ahead and do that. All right. But before I do this one though, I probably want to finish this up. So let's do that first. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make sure that this height is good. So let's go ahead. I'm just going to extend this one over here. And if you look at this image, there still is a little bit of rise to rise over here. So I probably want to match this one over here. So let's go ahead. Actually, let's turn the symmetry off. I'm just going to project this curve down here on these two surfaces from Z. I'm just going to check the height. Okay, so looks like, yeah, I would say that curve might actually be a little bit too high. Let's just take a look. I think this probably actually needs to go up a little bit. Let's take a look at from the side view. Yeah, I'm starting to think that this probably needs to go up, and I also probably should flatten this out a little bit. Okay, so let's do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to untrim this one over here. And I would say, yeah, let's have a little bit more better control over this one. So let me just untrim this one like this. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make sure that this height is good. So let's strike some curves. So I'm going to snap a curve over here like that. And I'm just going to snap it somewhere over here. Let's make this into degree 2 so that's a little bit simpler to use. That's good. And I'm actually going to, no, I should keep that. Yeah, I think that's good. All right, that's it. However, the height of this probably needs to be adjusted. So I'm just going to bring it up a little bit like that. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make sure that this one, well, probably shouldn't be that high, but I probably do want to bring it up a little bit. So I'm going to deviate from this one a little bit though. That said, I just want to make sure that this isn't going to be too much. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just duplicate this curve over here like this. And you know what? I think I'm going to leave the crown as is. I'm just going to extend this one back like that, wherever the intersection point is. And instead of touching this one over here, because right now I think the height should be pretty good, I'm just going to move this up like that. Okay. And that should allow us a little bit better height control over here. So let's go ahead and extend this back. Actually, you know what? I might just make this out of a square. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm just going to make it flat over here. And I'm just going to make it flat here. I'm just going to keep this just in case. And I'm going to utilize this as a basis for the square. So it's going to be 1, 2, 3, and oh, I didn't want to hit that. I'm going to turn the explicit control off. 3 and 4 on this curve over here. Oh, that actually needs to rise up. So again, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, that looks better. And I'm just going to hide this one. over here like this. And now I'm just going to project these two curves from the top so that I know exactly how much, well, basically height I'm going to get. Now that's it. However, I think this one, let's make this a degree 2 like this. And I think what needs to happen is I think this one actually needs to come down a little bit. And I think this one actually needs to go up a little bit as well. So I'm just going to bring it down over here just for that subtle little flick that you see on the hood like this. And I'm going to just bring the rest of it up. So I'm just going to bring it up like that. And let's go ahead. And I'm just going to do a line. Just going to align it over here. Of course, blending will be on 1 and 2. And I think that's looking pretty good. You just want to make sure that this relationship is pretty nice and constant. So I would say just bring this up a little bit like that. You know what? I think it's starting to look flat over here. So I think it might be a better idea if I just connect these two. So let's go ahead and do that. I think that might be a better idea. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make sure that this the symmetry is on this curve, and I'm going to extend this out over here like this. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to snap this one over here. Now that does mean that it's going to rise up a little bit more, but I think that's definitely necessary for proper execution of this surface. So I'm just going to snap it over here. I'm going to snap this one here, and let's go ahead and rebuild the square. So I'm just going to duplicate this edge over here, and I'm actually going to, well, I think I still need it. Okay, so I'm just going to duplicate this one over here. Let's do a square. Let's just make sure that everything's lined up though. Oh, for this one, here's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to do a fit curve, or you can do a, well, actually you can just do a duplicate. Just going to snap it over here so that basically this is an exact duplicate of that. And now what I can do is I can just use the stretch tool to snap it down here, and that's going to create a very nice generous transition from here to here, and that should work out pretty nicely. So I'm just going to say 1, 2, 3, and 4 like that. And I think that should be good. So now the line, it should create a nice alignment. And let's go ahead and align this one over here. I'm going to align this piece down here. And I'm going to say blending on, extra zeros of 1. And I think that's good as well. Okay, so let's go ahead and fix some of the surfaces over here. Of course, with the update, you just want to make sure that they're good. So first of all, I'm just going to extend this surface over here, and I'm just going to trim that out. So for this one, let's just grab a curve fillet. Oh, actually, you know what? I think I'm just going to leave it as is and project over here. And let's go ahead and do a curve fillet. Oh, actually, you know what? This one, actually, that's not necessary because that's not going to be the final surface. So I'll just leave that as is for now. All right. Okay, and so now let's go ahead and project this one over here. And I'm just going to say trim. I'm going to project this one over here. And I'm going to trim. And of course, this surface needs to be adjusted. So let's go ahead and align this one over here. I'm going to say positioning from the set to max. And I'm going to just reproject the COS over here like that. Okay, I'm going to trim. Oh, let's just make sure that it's at the right location though. Okay, so looks like it's not. So let's go ahead and just strike a curve from here to here. Now, even if it's a little bit off, that's fine. All you have to do is just project like this. And let's go ahead and trim. All right, So I'm just going to align over here. Blending will be turned off. It's going to be G2 on both sides. I'm going to do the same thing over here. Let's say edge align. These ones should be fine. And I think that's pretty good. Okay. So now let's just go ahead and delete the construction history over here. Like this. And that looks pretty good. Okay, let's just turn symmetry on. Okay, so some of the fillets are done, but I still need to put some more in. So I'm going to do that. However, I think the refined surfaces look much better. Now that said, however, I think this is going to take a little bit more time. So I think I'm going to break this into 3 parts. So we will hopefully finish this one in part 3. Okay, so that is it for part 2. We will continue in the next video. And thank you guys for watching.